Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. लैपटॉप लगा दो, स्क्रीन में पढ़ना, लैपटॉप की स्क्रीन में पढ़ना लगा दो। नहीं मैं यहाँ पे कुछ और रख दूँगा, नहीं तो आएगा नहीं ज़्यादा। मेरा कोई सामान बजाने वाला। जय।
गुरुदेव की जय।
हरि हरि बोल। Let's move forward. Everyone can move. Yeah.
So his top part is random.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all for very kindly being here. We hear and chant about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How many of us are coming here for the first time? Like when I say first time in a spiritual gathering or a ISKCON gathering or discussion between the Chaitanya, one, okay. We all have been part of this discussion at some point. The reason I'm asking is so that if someone is new, we can set the pace accordingly. So I think everyone has been accepted. What's your name?
Archie.
Huh?
Archie.
Archie. Thank you so much for being here. Have you been part of ISKCON programs in the past? Or this is the first time? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Can we have a big round of applause? Thank you so much for being here. I know on a Friday evening we can do so many things. Especially if you're all from India, Friday night, Saturday night is it's like the movie time. That's the time the theaters are like full. But instead of being in a theater, we're all there in a temple. That's surprising. So thank you so much for being here. If not for all of you all, I will not be speaking. Because all of you all have come, we get the chance to speak. In scriptures it is said, who is more important? Is the audience more important or is the speaker more important? And someone can say, no, the speaker is important. The scriptures say no, the audience is important. Because if the speaker doesn't come, someone else will replace him at your class. If the audience doesn't come, program is cancelled. So thank you so much for being here. Because of all of you, the program is not cancelled, but we are here to discuss and chant about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If I can ask, how did you get to know about
One of our friends, they were going to some other ISKCON temple and they told that Lynnwood में नया खुला है, so go check it out.
were they going to Sarani?
Yeah, so headquarters.
Huh?
Headquarters.
That's the Maya point. And I believe you live somewhere close by.
Yeah, Lynnwood itself.
Okay, thank you for being here. I'm just going to give a quick overview so that we are all on the same page. I don't think it's going to be a quick overview because we have discussed that for 1.5 years, but just a quick, I don't know what to call it, but crash course. I'm sorry, but it's going to be really crash. In Bhakti, we normally see that there are 3 primary books that are always emphasized. One is the most popular, the Bhagavad Gita, which doesn't require any introduction. We have all heard of the Bhagavad Gita. It is a book that is spoken by Krishna. And who is the audience?
Arjuna.
Arjuna. If not for Arjuna, Krishna would have not spoken. But interestingly, is Krishna, even if Arjuna was not there, he is still spoken to Vivaswan, the sun god. So for, to Hanumanji also, correct. So, when we initially said that audience is important, for Krishna it doesn't matter. Even if audience doesn't come, he picks an audience and speaks. वो भगवान है, वो अपना देख लेते हैं. But for people like you and I, we need little audience. So, Bhagavad Gita is the book. Bhagavad is Bhagavan. Bhagavan से आता है Bhagavad. And Gita means song. जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं गीत गाना. Bhagavad Gita. It is that song which is sung by God. And interestingly, when the songs that we sing in this world, there may be 3 paragraphs or 3 stanzas, 4 stanzas, 5 stanzas. The song that God sings is 700 stanzas. And mind you, no preparation. On the spot. When we are put on the spot, it's very difficult. We have to think. Right? Not everyone is good at extempo. Most times we need a preparation. Like we see some of the world leaders that are there that I can think of are very good at extempo. Like you see from India, we have Mr. Narendra Modi, who's very good at extempo. Very good at extempo, even when it's a who's very good at connecting to an audience who are at large numbers and without much preparation, let's say. Another name that really comes to my mind, of course there are many, but in the US we had a president by the name Barack Obama. And Barack Obama was also very good at extempo. He was very good, connected to the audience loved him, etc. But most often, we need a preparation. But Krishna is such a personality, without any preparation, Arjuna is just asking a question, and to answer that question, Krishna speaks 18 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, just to dispel his doubt away. That is Bhagavan. And interestingly, you would think that to speak 700 verses, it would require 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, etc. If you see in the Samamish temple during Gita Jayanti in December, the whole day they have Bhagavad Gita recitation. And different devotees sign up beforehand to read chapter by chapter. Because it's very difficult for one devotee to read 18 chapters. And I have seen, when the devotee finishes first chapter, they are already gasping for breath. 50 verses, 60 verses, 70 verses. And Krishna is such a personality, he doesn't take the whole day because it's a battlefield. Itna samay nahi hai. Krishna speaks the whole of Bhagavad Gita in just 48 minutes. 48 minutes. 48 minutes में पूरा गीता सुना दिया. That is the real crash course. That's the real crash course. He doesn't waste much time. And interestingly, you would think that because he spoke in 48 minutes, maybe Arjuna was not able to grasp. But Arjuna is also such a student. The teacher is qualified, the student is also qualified. Teacher speaks in 48 minutes, the student is also able to grasp it in 48 minutes. And then has a battle. Right? So that's Bhagavad Gita that's spoken by Krishna. Then there's another book called as the Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, the word Bhagavat is there. Bhagavatam is the book about Krishna. Gita is the book by Krishna. Bhagavatam is about Krishna. एक भगवान के ऊपर है, भगवान के बारे में है, और एक भगवान के द्वारा है. Both is. Srimad Bhagavatam primarily talks about how the world was created, how does the primary creation, how does the secondary creation, where does Brahma fit into the picture, where does Indra fit into the picture, भोलेनाथ शिव जी इनका कर्तव्य क्या है, इनका कार्य क्या है, इत्यादि. These questions that normally people have is primarily explained more in detail in Bhagavatam. Then there is a book which is considered the postgraduate study, as our Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, mentioned, postgraduate study, is called as the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we are discussing. What is the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita? Who is Chaitanya? Chaitanya is Krishna. Krishna is Chaitanya, Chaitanya is Krishna. The only difference is Krishna appeared in Dwapar Yuga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in Kali Yuga. And you and I, fortunately, unfortunately, are in Kali Yuga. Whether you like it or not, we are in Kali Yuga. Actually, our Acharyas very beautifully they say that Kali Yuga is anyone born in this Yug, Kali is the most fortunate. They call it Dhanya Kali. यानी अर्थात जिनका जन्म कलियुग में होता है वो धन्य है. Now you would have a question, how? We have lived 30, 40, 50 years in our life. अब तक तो धन्य लगा ही. ये धन्य कहाँ से हुआ? How are the Acharyas calling it धन्य? Well, the understanding is, in the previous ages, which means let's start with the first stage, which is Satya Yuga. नाम नहीं सत्य है, which means it is that age where truthfulness prevails. कोई झूठ नहीं बोलता, सब सत्यवादी हैं, सब सच बोलते हैं. So can't you imagine such a place, right? Imagine, I mean, the moment we open our eyes from morning to evening, sometimes हम दिन में कई सारे झूठ बोलने पड़ते हैं, और especially if you are working in office environment, you know better than me. थोड़ा लगाना पड़ता है, मक्खन लगाना पड़ता है. Whether it's home or school or whatever it is. And that's the world we live in. So Satyuga is that time when people are highly truthful. So the criteria to attain God was also that difficult. Why? Because every yuga has a yardstick. एक मापने का तरीका होता है. यदि आप सत्युग में है, if you are in Satyug, then you are the yardstick to get God or Krishna is very high. So you have to uplift yourself to that level. If I have to give you an example like Prahlad. Prahlad is in Satya. Everyone saw the movie Narshikare?
Yeah.
So देखिए. You know who Prahlad is. I don't have to speak about Prahlad. How elevated is Prahlad? Prahlad was so elevated that Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him so many times. And even then Prahlad was saved. Even when he was in the lap of Holy Kaya, and it was flames were there in and around. And he was still protected. We cook in the kitchen, thoda wo tel ऐसे लग जाता है, and our hand didn't burn. Right? He was thrown from the mountains. I'll just give you an example. I'm pretty sure we all would have experienced this. When we sleep, we get dreams. सपने आते हैं. We at some point would have got a dream where सोते समय we are falling off either from the bed. बच्चे कैसे? सबको ड्रीम आया है. You are falling from the bed. If you are very Mahapurush, you are falling from the mountain. Bed से तो आया होगा. I have got a dream. And sometimes the dreams, even if it's a bed, it's so scary that your eyes open. Right? And after that, it's very difficult to get sleep. Dear devotees, now it is talking about a dream. हम केवल सपने के बारे में बोल रहे हैं. वास्तविकता में यदि सोचिए, if you are thrown from a mountain and that to a 5-year-old boy, what would the instance be? It's very easy in a movie, we sit and we clap and we say Hari Bol, Jai, etc. But if you just pause and step into the shoes of Prahlad, it's unimaginable. And what was his mistake? His only mistake was because Bhakti. Bhagavan ka bhajan karte the. That was his so-called mistake. So that is Satya. So do we fit in the category of Prahlad? We know our bhakti very well. हम कितना बजे उठते हैं, कितना माला करते हैं, कैसे माला करते हैं, what time we sleep, how much time we spend in the gadgets. It's sometimes scary that you see in iPhone there is a function in Android also. It shows you throughout the week how much time you have spent on your phone, right? And the numbers are very scary. Don't worry, I will not ask you what the numbers are. You can keep it to yourself. Rajan we hear. But sometimes the numbers are so scary. It's like, my goodness, did I spend this much amount of time on my phone? And it can be maybe office work or it can be whatever. But the amount of time that we give for gadgets, and mind you, that's just the phone. Then we have this laptop. From morning stand-up call to run the work that we get. That's all on the laptop. So it's very difficult to map ourselves according to Prabhu. That's Satya. Then comes Treta Yuga. In Treta Yuga we have personalities like Hanuman. Prahlad come देंगे Hanuman आ गए. You have Hanuman, right? Who is Hanuman? My goodness, his tail was set on fire with that tail that was burning in fire, with that he goes on to serve Prabhu Sri Ram. If our hand gets burned, our first response would be how I can make sure my hand is safe. Right? अभी कोई गिरला ही होगा कि हाथ जल रहा है और वो जलते हुए हाथ में कोई बोले हे राम हे राम. It's very rare. There can be examples, someone who is very exalted, but very rare. This reminds me, on a side, because we're talking about Hanuman and the tail setting on fire. So, we all would be knowing that in our Semamish temple, we have His Holiness Hari Vilas Maharaj. So, if there's some context for them, if we are having a couple of temples here in Semamish and Bellevue and Lynnwood, etc., he is like the pioneer who has slogged and worked in the last 30 years to make sure we have congregation. You want to say something?
Yeah. And मैं पूछूं या अभी पूछूं?
प्रश्न है?
हाँ.
End में.
ठीक है.
It's actually very sweet when you see kids are attentive. To be honest, I'm saying this from my heart. The amount of happiness that I get when kids are attentive and they speak and ask questions, for me that happiness is way more than adults paying attention. Doesn't mean adults don't have to pay attention. Some are like already stretching. अच्छा बात किया बोलिए, हम आराम से बैठे. Everyone has to. It's inspiring, right? When kids pay attention, it's very inspiring. So back to our point of Hanuman. When Hanuman's tail was set on fire, with that he was ready to serve Sri Ram. So we have His Holiness Hari Vilas Maharaj, and one devotee was saying this. And those who know more can maybe add. But many years ago, when he had come here in the early 90s, he was giving a class in one of the home programs. At that time, we didn't have our Semamish temple, very small congregation. And he was giving a class. And as he was giving the class, he got a call that his house had caught fire. He had his home, and his home had caught fire. And now the initial response is when our house is on fire, we put everything to the side and go and protect our house, because there are many valuable things. It has taken many years to get that house going. That's our initial response, and there is nothing wrong in this. That's the initial response. But when I heard it, I literally was surprised and I was emotional that here was Hari Vilas Maharaj was giving a class. His own house was set on fire. He heard it. He kept the call down and he continued the class. He ended up continuing the class. He finished the class, and by the time he went, the house was substantially damaged. And interestingly, then insurance was able to cover. But with the insurance money also that they covered, of that also I think he gave some chunk of that money in building our Semamish temple. Amazing, right? When devotees go to this extreme where they are ready to sacrifice their own comfort to build a temple so that it becomes a house for devotees to come and sit and hear, the Lord has special affection for them. The Shastra in fact says that anyone who builds one temple in their life, भगवान को प्राप्त कर लेते हैं. ये शास्त्र का वर्णन. If someone builds one temple, they get the Supreme Lord. So if someone builds more than one, it's a red carpet entry there. But back to our point of Satyayug, where Hanuman, his tail was on fire, and with that he was ready to serve Sri Ram. So that's the standard of Satyayug. Then we have Treta. That's the standard of Treta. Then we have Dwapar Yuga, जहाँ स्वयं Krishna आए. In Dwapar Yuga you have the Pandavas. What to speak of the Pandavas? You have personalities like Yudhishthir Maharaj, when his own life was at stake, ऐसे समय पर भी झूठ नहीं बोले. He was never ready to lie. He never lied. Even in the battlefield, he never lied. Even though Krishna instigated it. He said, "My dear Lord, आप झूठ, even my dear Krishna, if you lie, the world will still glorify you. But if I lie, it will not be the same." भगवान झूठ बोलते हैं तो भी पूजनीय है. हम कई बार बोले हैं when Krishna even runs away from the battlefield, जब भगवान रण छोड़कर जाते हैं, वो रण छोड़ के नहीं जाते हैं. माखन चुराते माखन चोर बन जाते हैं. भगवान जो भी करते कुछ नहीं बन जाते. Whatever the Lord does, he becomes glorious. But वो भगवान है, हम भक्त फर्क है. So in Dwapar, the standard of the yardstick are the Pandavas. And then what to speak of the residents of Sri Vrindavan? It's one notch higher. So we don't fit in the category of Satya. We don't fit in the category of Treta. We don't fit in the category of Dwapar because the criteria is very high, the yardstick is very high. For people who don't fit in Satya, Treta, Dwapar, for them the Lord very kindly creates one yuga called as Kali Yuga, where the standards have been brought down so much so that you and I can get Krishna in one life. Lochendas Thakur, that's why he calls it this age as Dhanya Kali. Why? Because when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes down, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't see people on the level that Krishna would see. When we chant the names of Krishna, 10 offenses in the morning that we recite. In daily worship, 32 offenses. The numbers always keep increasing. But for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaura Naam, Gaura Dham, Gaura Rupa Gun, Aparada Nahi Mani Tarike Nipun. 4 things related to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that offenses are not considered. पाप नहीं गिने जाते. भगवान इतने दयालु और जानते हैं कि कलयुग के जीव में सुबह से शाम तक इतने सारे अपराध करेंगे. यदि मैं अपराध की गणना करने लगूं तो ये कभी भागवत धाम जा ही नहीं पाएंगे. So he is so kind that he doesn't consider offenses. 4 things. Gaura Naam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's name has no offenses. Gaura Dham. Mahaprabhu's land. Mayapur Dham. Navadvip Dham, etc. Gaura Rup. The form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gaura Rup, the qualities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Aparada Nahi Mani. Self-explanatory. Aparada Nahi Mani. He doesn't consider offenses. Tarite Nipur. These 4 things are expert in delivering the question. The name, form, pastimes, and the land. Very good. So dear devotees, we are extremely fortunate to be present in Kali Yuga because we are here discussing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is so kind and he is ready to uplift anyone and everyone, those who are ready to simply hear about him and chant his name. So having said that, that was a fairly quick introduction to who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Now we are discussing the Adi, Madhya and Antya. Not getting into too much details, but we are right now in the section where it's the Madhya, the middle part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here is traveling towards South India. He has been in Jagannath Puri for a long time. And having been in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu develops a desire to go to South India. And if you remember, last week we discussed this, that why did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu want to go to South? What was the reason? Ramananda. Yes. It's almost like school. See, in school, you always wait for that topper to give an answer. The moment the topper puts his hand up and he says something, the others also follow. And sometimes when the others follow, it may or may not be right, but you are confident that what topper is saying, that is correct. Ramananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to go to South India primarily to meet Ramananda. And we also mentioned that Mahaprabhu, when he was speaking to his associates, he mentioned to his associates that he wanted to first meet his older brother. What's the name of the older brother?
Vishnu.
Huh?
No.
Someone said it.
Vishnu.
Vishnu.
Oh.
Confidently बोलिए एक ही answer. Vishnu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Vishwambar. The passport name is Vishwambar, and his older brother is Vishnu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said he wants to meet his older brother Vishnu, but realistically his brother had already departed from this world. He said Bhagavad Dham chale gaye. So it was only a quote-unquote excuse to meet his older brother, but the reality was the main reason why he wanted to go to South was primarily whole and soul to meet this one personality, Sri Ramananda Rai. And who was the personality who gave recommendation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my dear Lord, you go and meet Ramananda Rai? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, we have discussed in the previous classes, very dear associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He gave this recommendation to my Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that, my dear Lord, if you desire to go to South India, you should go and meet Sri Ramananda. That's where we began the discussion. We started the discussion. And we mentioned that how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's itinerary was to go to South. Nityananda Prabhu wanted to accompany him, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reminded Nityananda Prabhu that of his track record and his history that he has with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The first time when Nityananda Prabhu accompanied Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instead of taking him to Vrindavan, he took him to Shantipur, the place of Advaita Acharya. Then, when Mahaprabhu was walking forward and he gave his sannyas danda to Nityananda Prabhu was so ecstatic that he broke the danda. Please don't try it. Nityananda Prabhu is the only person in the history who has ever done it. If you see the whole history of sannyas, no one has ever misplaced or broken the danda except one person, Nityananda Prabhu. And it's very interesting. Whenever Nitai or Mahaprabhu does, it is glorious because there in the scriptures. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reminds Nityananda Prabhu that, my dear Nitai, you are very great, but I want to go alone. And Nityananda Prabhu says, no, I think Jagadananda should come. And Mahaprabhu says, oh, Jagadananda, he is another character. He wants me to enjoy. I being a sannyasi, I want to be a renunciant, I want to be austere, but he wants me to live a lavish life, and when I tell him I don't want to, he gets angry. And he doesn't talk to me for days. He doesn't eat anything. So it's good that Jagadananda should stay here. And then Nityananda says, maybe Mukunda can come. Maybe Damodar can come. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for everyone, gives a reason why he doesn't want anyone. Finally, Nityananda Prabhu says, my dear Lord, you should take one associate. There should be at least one servant who accompanies you. And then Mahaprabhu agrees. And who is that personality who was sent forward by Nityananda Prabhu to accompany Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Kala Krishna Das, yes. Kala Krishna Das. Kala Krishna Das was one personality. Nitai said, my dear Lord, you should take him. Because he doesn't have any track record with you. And he is very straightforward. He will not speak anything. My dear Lord, you are constantly chanting with one hand. In another hand, you are counting how much you are chanting. एक हाथ से आप माला जप रहे हैं, दूसरे हाथ से आप कितना माला कर रहे हैं, वो काउंट कर रहे हैं. Back in the days, there was no beats, no counter. Nowadays, we see we have a finger counter and different fancy, different color beads. Sometimes the beads are so fancy. It reminds me. We were one time in Vrindavan, and Vrindavan is known for monkeys. How many have been to Vrindavan? सब है. आपको पता है मंदिर क्या है और कैसे है आपको पता है. They are pretty interesting. And they're so interesting, especially in Vrindavan, where maybe not the normal monkeys. In Vrindavan, monkeys are expert in stealing. उन्हें सिखाया जाता है कि चोरी कैसे करनी है. And if you're going to Vrindavan for the first time, you are really in for a surprise. Especially if you're wearing glasses. Yes. If you're wearing glasses and you're going to Vrindavan for the first time, the monkeys are so skilled that even before you can react, out of nowhere, they will jump from one of the branches and pick up your glasses from your eye. आपके आंखों के सामने चोरी करेंगे और आपको पता नहीं चलेगा. And they're so smooth that their nail, even their nails don't hurt you. They're that smooth. So, professional. Oh, really professional. PhD kids. And all the monkeys are like that.
And they will wait.
उसको
वहाँ पे खुद दें, वेट करेंगे.
हाँ, एक को चश्मा लेंगे. They will take the glasses and they will go up. So they will sit on a branch. And they are so smart, they will not run away from you. They will be in close proximity where they can see you and you can also see. But all that you can do is only see. You cannot do anything more than that. Because if you try to do anything, the monkeys have very sharp canine teeth. And they can really rip you apart. So in Vrindavan, what happens is the monkeys are trained such. They steal, when they are hungry, they will steal your glasses. Even when they are not hungry, they will still steal. They will steal glasses, they will steal purse, they will steal chappal, mobile phone, kappada. I have seen sometimes, like you see the traditional, you have this cloth stand. When in India they put clothes. In Vrindavan, monkeys are so interesting. When in the morning time, actually during summer, when the clothes are hung and they are wet, and because it's very hot in Vrindavan, these monkeys are so interesting. They pick up the wet clothes and put it on their head and start running. Because it's like a cooling, spa for them and free. And I see many times in the morning time there will be monkeys, like 5-7 monkeys, all with these wet clothes running around. Very fancy. उनको पता नहीं कि कपड़े उनको ठंडा है वो लगा दिए. So the way it works in Braj around Vrindavan is, if they take your glasses, the only way you can get your glasses back is not through money. Money doesn't work. If it's summer time, it is fruity. They want only fruity. And if you don't believe me, go to YouTube and check it out for yourself. They are so smart. You give them chapati and dal rice, sabji, puri, all those things, they will send it back. Not even banana. Banana, that is satya hoga. Banana is banana. Banana, naam क्यों banana नहीं खाते हैं? Banana is like when they are on Ekadashi, that day is banana. After they don't do banana now. Now it is fruity, and it should be nice, cold, like chilled fruity. And with one hand you have to throw the fruity up. They get the fruity, they will put the straw inside, they will check it's cold, it's fresh. With another hand, they will give your glasses back. Dadati Pratigranati. That is their form of blessing. That's how it happens in Vrindavan. And they will steal anything, so they are trained in a way. So the reason I was saying is that sometimes the counter beads are so fancy. Like you find all these different colors. Mine is green, but sometimes they're like red. And I say Matadis will have pink, and sometimes it's like pink and like some other fancier stuff. So my mother, many years back, like 10 years back, so she had a counter beads like this, and it was pink in color. And somewhere here there was like a lotus design. And it was evening time, and she didn't know she was walking. And the monkey from a distance at night time it saw and it felt it's something to eat. So from behind it chased, thinking it's something to eat, and then it realized it was it's just a counter bead. But the attack from behind was so fierce that it ended up biting her. Oh. She had to take a tetanus injection. And that too in Radhakund. So finding a doctor in Radhakund itself is a challenge. So monkeys can be in Vrindavan, very special, and it's fascinating when you go and tell a Brajvasi that a monkey has bitten you, they will start glorifying. They will say, "Arey, आप भगवान की कृपा पात्र बन गए. A monkey has bitten you because you come to Vrindavan. Monkey तो भगवान के एकदम निकट पार्षद है. Their dear associates. If the monkey bites you, you're blessed by the Lord. But that blessing is very painful. It is very painful. It's not a very happy feeling. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I don't want anyone, I will just go alone. And finally, Kala Krishna Das is present. Srila Prabhupada would always travel with his servants. Our founder Acharya of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, would always travel. There would be at least one servant who would travel with Prabhupada. Now in the 1970s, Prabhupada landed in Melbourne, Australia. And like any country has, you have the immigration. So they came to the immigration, and then Prabhupada cleared his immigration, and Prabhupada was there with one of his servants. So the servant presented his passport in the immigration, and the authority was there. He checked the passport, and he looked at this person and said, "Where is the visa?" There is the visa, correct? There is the visa. He said, this servant who was there, he said, "I don't have visa." So he said, can't enter the country. If you don't have a visa, you can't enter the country. And this was back in the 70s. Now at least when you're departing a place to go somewhere, like if you're leaving India to come to America, in India itself they will see whether you have an American visa or something. But we are talking about 50, 60 years in the past. Rules weren't that stringent. So he reached and they checked his passport. There was no visa. They said, where is your visa? He said, I don't have visa. So then the immigration officer said, you can enter the country. This servant of Prabhupada was there. He said, but I have married an Australian citizen. I have married an Australian citizen, which means my wife is an Australian. In that way, I am also an Australian. So the immigration officer said, okay, where is your, can you show me your marriage certificate? He said, I don't have. The immigration officer said, wait a minute, you don't have your visa. When I ask you about visa, you say you are married to Australian. When I ask you about marriage certificate, you say you don't have marriage certificate. What do you have? This servant of Prabhupada said, I have marriage photos. Can I show you that? Very personal immigration officer. Now these are not documents that you normally show. He said, I have a photograph of marriage. So the immigration officer said, okay. And he showed the photograph. And these were back in the 70s when there were like no phones. It wasn't like WhatsApp, you open Google Drive, OneDrive and you can show. Back in the 70s. So he had some hard copy and he presented. Now why were the photographs shown? The photographs were shown so that he could substantiate he is married to an Australian citizen so that he can enter Australia. Now interestingly, as the story unfolded, the immigration officer was seeing the photograph, and as he was seeing the photograph, he saw the photo of Prabhupada in it, because Prabhupada was the priest. Prabhupada will connect with the marriage. He saw Prabhupada. And at this point, the immigration officer had already seen Prabhupada in another counter. And he was already surprised looking at Prabhupada because he had never seen anyone with a shaven head. He had never seen anyone with a shika. He had never seen anyone in an orange cloth. He had never seen anyone in a danda. That too 1970s Australia. So he already looked at Prabhupada and he was a little amazed and surprised and had respect just with one look. And now he saw the same person. Dear devotees, that photo that was meant to substantiate the marriage ended up becoming the reason why this immigration officer got attracted just by looking at Prabhupada. Looking at the photograph of Prabhupada, he got so attracted that he was seeing, then he forgot what was the reason why this photograph was presented to him. Believe me or not, he was let go. And he entered the country, 1973, Prabhupada release. This servant of Prabhupada entered Australia without a visa, without a marriage certificate, just with one photograph, and in that Prabhupada's photo, and he got attracted to Prabhupada's photo. With that, he was given entry. So it's very valuable and essential to have a photo of Prabhupada in your pocket. You don't know how and when and next time how it will help you. In the present day, you find normally people in their wallet. The husband will have the photo of wife will have the photo of husband, or a group, both will have each other's photo, things like that. But the servants of Prabhupada were so sincere that even during those days, they had the photo of Prabhupada always with them. Why am I discussing this? Because a servant is someone who is sold out to his spiritual master. He is always thinking as to how he can serve his guru, his spiritual guide. And Kala Krishna was one such personality who accompanied Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And whenever Mahaprabhu wanted Kala Krishna Das, he was always there. So here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we discussed all this last time. Here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with the devotees of Jagannath Puri, they go to a temple called as Alarnath. It's called as Alarnath or Alalnath in Odia. They go to a temple of Alarnath, and as they go there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts singing and dancing, as he normally would do at any place. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started dancing, Kaviraj Goswami explains the beauty of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please kindly repeat. Is it visible for everyone?
Yeah.
Kanchana Sadrisha Deha Arunavasan
Kanchana Sadrisha
नित्यानंद प्रभु कहे भक्त गाने
रूपे नृत्य आगे हवे गामे गामे
रूपे
नृत्य आगे आवे ग्रामे ग्रामे.
Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there in the temple of Aladnath and he was dancing. How beautiful was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Kanchana, Sadrisha Deha, his body was like Kanchan. Kanchan means gold. Kanchana Sadrisha Deha, it was like Chalta Firta gold. The Lord is very interesting. He understands that people of Kali Yuga are fascinated behind gold. So he thinks to himself, why not I only come as gold? गोल्ड से इतना प्रेम है, इतना प्रेम करते हैं गोल्ड से, सोना से. Why not I myself come as gold? You get attracted to me. Kanchana Sadrisha Deha, Aruna Vasan. Vasan, his cloth is like Aruna. Aruna means orangish. You see, when the sun rises, just before the sun rises, it's orangish in the horizon. That's called Aruna. Kanchana Sadrisha Deha, Aruna Vasan. Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his body was golden, his cloth was orangish. Pulaka Shrukampa Sweda Tahate Bhushan. Pulaka means hair. Ashru means tears. Kampa Sweda. His body's complexion from being gold, it became pale, it became yellow. Pulaka, his hair was standing on end. He had tears, his bodily complexion changed. But in spite of all this, Tahate Bhushan, it was adding to his beauty. He was already beautiful, now with his hair standing on end, with tears flowing from his eyes and his skin going pale, this was adding to Mahaprabhu's beauty. When you and I cry, it's not a very happy feeling. Leave alone increasing our beauty. And if you have not seen, maybe you can do this experiment. Next time you cry, see yourself in the mirror. And then you can remember this verse. When Mahaprabhu would cry, he was extremely beautiful. But when you and I cry, it's not a very happy feeling. Leave alone we being beautiful. Hair standing on end. Our hair stands on end when it's winter outside. When there is no heater, that's when our hair stands on end. Ashru, tears, Tahate Bhushan. Mahaprabhu, as he was dancing, as he was chanting, he was extremely beautiful. Dekhi Nityananda Prabhu kahe bhaktagan. Looking at all this Nityananda Prabhu, kahe bhaktagan, we told all the associates who were present, E nritya rupe age, hobe grame grame. That this form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with this beautiful, attractive form, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will dance and inundate every village, ground, every village that he goes to. And indeed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going